We, the jury in the above entitled action, find the defendant, Conrad Robert Murray, guilty of the crime of involuntary manslaughter in violation of penal
Michael
code
Jackson's doctor is on suicide watch in jail today after his conviction for involuntary manslaughter.
Former Dallas County Assistant Prosecutor Barry Sorrels with us to put the case in perspective. We were just talking before we went on about this was a slam dunk. It would be almost impossible for any prosecutor to lose a case like this one.
Well, I would say as a defense attorney looking at this case, it's your worst nightmare because the facts were bad and impossible to overcome. In this case, even the defense witnesses helped the state's case. For example, the expert that they called to talk about propofol said that he would never administer this drug in a non-clinical situation. He'd never administer this drug in somebody's bedroom. He'd never administer this drug without proper monitoring of vital signs and resuscitation equipment. So every witness in this case ended up helping convict Dr. Murray.
So that was the big thing, the fact that this never should have been administered in somebody's home.
That's exactly right. And also just the nature of this drug being used for insomnia when it's really an anesthetic to be used in the operating room or intensive care. It's not a medicine. It's so powerful. It's not a medicine that should be used to treat somebody not being able to sleep. It was just a ridiculous administering of this powerful drug.
The Jackson family understandably wanted to see Dr. Murray early on charged with murder. He was charged with involuntary manslaughter and convicted of that. He won't be practicing, needless to say, won't be practicing medicine anymore. Could go to prison. Difference between murder, manslaughter, involuntary manslaughter?
Well, the difference is in murder, you have to knowingly or intentionally cause the death of an individual. In criminal and negligent homicide or in involuntary manslaughter, the culpable mental state that you have to have when it comes to loss of life is that you do something that's so reckless that you are disregarding known risk in doing it anyway, and the conduct is so dangerous that a reasonable person would know that if you do this, then you could cause someone's death. And so in this case, administering this drug, not monitoring Michael Jackson while he was under the influence of this drug, being on the telephone, texting, doing it out in an unsafe environment, the jury determined, wait a second, you know, a doctor or exercising ordinary care would never administer this drug to somebody under those conditions.
We're hearing that he could get up to 4 years in prison. What are you thinking?
Well, I wouldn't be surprised since the judge held him without bail pending sentencing that if the judge returns a maximum sentence. I mean, that's a sign that the judge is going to lower the boom. But I think in California there's a lot of conditions that may lead to his not doing 4 calendar years. There's overcrowding, and also there's legislation recently passed that he may not serve this time in a state prison. He'll probably be in a county jail, and it'll be up to the sheriff to decide how much of the sentence he serves. So he could get off light even if the judge gives him the maximum sentence.
I heard he can even do time at home. He could just be held at his house.
Well, that's another possibility. At this point, we don't know.
Right, and you go into sentencing in a case like this, basically, you know your guy's going to be convicted if you're a defense attorney, and your best hope is just in the sentencing phase.
Well, it's you know, the question's always two-part for a lawyer. Can the state prove the case beyond a reasonable doubt? And if they can, then the question is, what's the very best possible punishment for your client? So at this point, that's exactly what they're going to be focusing on.
Right, trying to paint him in a sympathetic light before the jury. Barry, thanks.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for having me.
Coming up here on Good Day, a little bit of welcome rain hitting the area, and more is on the way. Evan's been tracking these